in the way of you taking care of yourself? And I think in my work as a time management expert, I find that there's really three key things that get in the way of self-care, as much as we know we want it. I think one of them really just feels like time. We just don't have enough time. Who's got free time on their schedule? You end every day with not everything on your to-do list done. We have work obligations. We have family obligations. We have household obligations. And there's also guilt. I have found that women who are the givers, the caretakers of the world, feel like any time they take for themselves, they are stealing it from somebody else. They're stealing it from their jobs, from their kids, from their spouses, from their parents, and the people that they feel they're there to take care of. But if we just keep going and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and caretaking and slaying and being fierce out there, what happens? We run out of fuel. We run out of gas. And we overestimate our ability to operate on an empty tank, right? When we are sleep deprived, we're not thinking clearly. It impacts our health. It puts stress on our bodies. We're less empathetic. We are not as good operating on an empty tank as we are as operating on a full one, right? So I'm going to give you today, just to get started, 2 very practical ways to change your approach to self-care, change your mindset, change your mechanics. The very first thing that I want to introduce is defining what self-care looks like. What is self-care? And self-care is not one thing. Self-care, which we think of like we give, and then we steal time, a little time for ourselves, and we think we pick one thing. But the reality is, self-care is really 4 things. And if you think of the word self as an acronym, it helps you remember the 4 critical components of self-care. We need sleep. We need, science says, 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night as adults. We need it. How many people here are getting 5 hours or less a night because they're so busy being fierce in the world, they're not taking care of themselves? But sleep restores our brain. It allows us to process a lot of information. We're more efficient in solving problems when we sleep better because our brains do the thinking overnight, right? And it gives us the energy and the health. Not enough sleep really impacts our health. We need exercise. E is for exercise. And exercise can be formal or informal. It doesn't have to be, listen, last year, pandemic, who got to go to the gym anymore, right? 90 minutes 3 times a week. No. So exercise can be formal exercise or informal. Just we saw a little video of somebody running after their toddler. We can build exercise into our everyday activities, putting groceries away from the core, doing deep knee bends and stretching. Love. L is for love, and our social relationships, our family relationships really have a huge impact, science shows us, on our well-being, on our health. When we are fulfilled, the brain is kind of relaxed, the body is relaxed, it's able to function well. When we are feeling isolated and lonely and guilty that we're not investing in our relationships, that really throws us off balance. And then there's fun. And fun, of course, we can have fun doing anything in our lives, right? I mean, we can have fun doing work. We can have fun here today. But by fun, what I mean by fun is the hobbies or passions or pure relaxation that whenever you do them, you feel like you. And those are often one of the first things to go when we get busy with our careers. If you have a family, you're like, I'll get to that after I retire. No, actually, your hobbies are one of the most efficient ways to boost your health, your self-nurturance and well-being. And I'll give you a little story. When I first started my business, I was a single parent. And I started my business when my daughter was 3 years old. And I was excited and I loved building my business. I loved it. It was an organizing and time management business. I was helping tame the chaos in people's lives. I was building something from scratch and I loved what I did. And I actually really loved parenting. I thought it was the coolest thing in the world to witness a human being develop. It was just amazing. So, but I was in business. I'd go to business networking events and people would ask me, what do you do for fun? It was like a chit chat thing. And I was like, well, I'm building this business. It's so much fun. And I'm raising a kid and it's so much fun. And they would say, no, 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 no. We mean hobbies. What are your hobbies? And I was like, I didn't have a hobby, right? I was busy. You can imagine how busy I was as a single parent, running a business and raising a kid. I didn't have a hobby, but I thought, I think I need to have a hobby for business networking purposes. That was my only motivation. It wasn't for me. It was for a business. So I thought, what could I do? What could I do? I kind of always wanted to learn Italian, but I thought that's really going to be demanding. I thought about taking cooking classes, but that was on a particular schedule and I couldn't fit it in. And then it occurred to me, dancing. I used to be a dancer when I was younger. I love dance. It just instantly transports me, gets me out of my head and into the music. And I've been hearing about swing dancing at the Continental Club in New York City on Sunday nights. And I'd been hearing about it for years and I always wanted to go, but like who had time? I didn't have time. But now I had a motivation, business. So I wedged in, I shoved in to a completely packed schedule. I shoved in swing dancing on Sunday nights. It wasn't like I had the empty space, but I wedged it in. I found a babysitter and I went because this was for my business, not for me. But here's what happened. I went there. There are all these old hoofers. I'm swing dancing. I had an 80-year-old man, talk about being fierce, 80-year-old man like swing me and dip me off my feet. It was just great. And it changed my entire relationship to time. All of a sudden, during the week, time seemed to slow down and stretch. And I would be working in my business and I'm working head down and I'm like, oh my God, it must be 5 o'clock. And I look at the clock and it was only 3 p.m. And my daughter, I always felt guilty as a single mom, like I never gave my daughter enough time. But suddenly, when I started swing dancing, I would sit at dinner with my daughter, and instead of my head being focused on all the work I hadn't gotten done or had to do after she went to bed, I was able to be fully present. And a half an hour sitting with my daughter, fully focused on her, felt like a whole night. And time stretched because I had this joy that made me feel like me injected into my life. So that's fun. So don't wait till you retire for the fun. You have to inject it now. So how? How do we inject this into our lives? We're busy. So here is the second idea. I told you one idea is recognize there's 4 components and we need to tend to all of them. The second idea I want to introduce you to is the idea of short doses. We grow up, we spend most of our childhood all the way into our 20s thinking of self-care in big blocks of time. And then we get careers and we get responsibilities and we may have kids and we can no longer get the big blocks of time. So what do? We're like, why go to the gym? Why work out? I don't even know when I'm going to come back. Might as well not bother at all. Don't do your hobby because you can't get all that time. So why bother at all? So I want to introduce the idea of micro doses of self-care. And this is really based on science, the science of human development. I spent 8 years studying for this book, Time to Parent, on what do humans need to feel loved and secure. And as it turns out, what we all need, what our children need, what we need from each other, and what we need for ourselves is short bursts of truly undivided attention and nurturance delivered consistently, not big blocks delivered occasionally, short bursts. And you can apply that to others, which buys you back some time, right? And then you also can apply that to yourself. So think about exercise, not as 30 minutes 3 times a week, but go online and find a 7-minute workout that you can do every day, no matter what, right? Your hobbies. I loved swing dancing. I was able to fit that in on Sundays, but you can do a dance party in your own house for 6 minutes after dinner, or 10 minutes, or 20 minutes. All but sleep. Sleep, you need your 7 to 9 hours, but you can do rest in 20-minute doses or less. You can do exercise, your connections with others. 20 minutes of fully undivided attention with a loved one is much more impactful than 2 hours when you are divided attention on your cell phone. Learn the power of presence. And I challenge you all, if you like this idea, to start small with one change based on these theories, which is to build into every day of your existence 2 daily anchors, 1 20-minute or less dose of self-care in the morning, and 1 daily 20-minute dose or less of self-care at the end of the day. And I don't mean sleep. Sleep cannot be your only form of self-care. 20-minute dose of self-care. So I have so many people, and this is really a pandemic prescription, by the way. No matter how stuck you are in your house, and even as we get back out there, we need to fold this in the fabric. I have so many clients who've applied this, 20-minute of exercise in the morning, 20 minutes just listening to music at the end of the day. I have somebody who has a little comfort corner in her house, and she goes in and she uses adult coloring books, and she spends about 10 minutes every night coloring. Another one plays the guitar. You can write in a journal. Think about your 2 daily anchors that no matter how busy it gets, no matter how many demands and things you want to do to conquer the world, what it really means to be fierce is to conquer the world out there by conquering the power within. And I leave you as inspiration the words of Maya Angelou. The older we get, the more we discover that we have 2 hands, one for helping ourselves and one for helping others. I encourage you to define fierceness as much about taking care of yourself as it is about conquering the world. Thank you for your time today.